Hey everybody, Brian Good here. I just rushed in and sat down real quick. Let's see, what are we going to talk about? Let's talk about the tropics, and then we'll get into some longer term stuff for our area. Hermine, remember the old days when it was just 99L? The Euro actually ended up winning this. You know, everybody thought, GFS was going to be the winner because it had nothing really with the system at the beginning, and Euro did. Although the Euro was a little overboard, sort of. If Hermine would have been a little more in the central Gulf, which is where the Euro had it, it would have exactly been the monster that it was being shown up on the Euro. But because it was quickly able to accelerate and get on the land before it got out of control, that's a good thing. It is now still a tropical storm and moving through Georgia and the Carolinas. It looks like it's going to stay on the land side of the coastline side of things. The path on it, again, this will keep adjusting, but at the moment, you see it hugging the coastline all the way through Charleston. Again, keep in mind, anywhere on the eastern side, that is where your tornado threat will be. Your storm surge for the Charleston Bay, Murrells Inlet, areas that were hit hard, and Hugo, not going to be like that, but they will have certainly a storm surge. At least the system's moving quick enough to where it's going to be a limited effect. But then the questions start to get into the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. I was talking about this yesterday. What in the world is it going to do then? Because we've got a large high that's sitting right up here around Nova Scotia. We do have another front that's showing up way out here to the west, but it's not enough to push it out to sea. So it's got nothing but a stop sign that's sitting here, and it's got to pretty much, and the wind fields are relatively weak in this area. So once it gets into the mid-Atlantic, it's going to have to decide where to go, and it may just kind of hang out for a day or two. This will be around Labor Day. Look at the water temperatures. Even in Chesapeake Bay, lower 80s. Quite warm. You get 80 for a tropical system. So it will likely keep the tropical characteristics. There was debate on whether or not it would be just a remnant low with 60 mile per hour winds. More like a nor'easter. That will usually happen when it becomes more hybrid or subtropical, whenever it gets more of a cold core instead of a warm core to it. But I got to say, by the looks of this, with the water temperatures the way they are, I really don't know if it's going to become a hybrid. I think it may stay a tropical entity until about riding through here, and then I think, at that point you're going to be talking about a subtropical type of system. But it's going to be a tough call from the Hurricane Center to decide how that's going to go. Either way, doesn't matter what it's called. The effects is what they need to worry about for the Northeast, including the Jersey Shore. So here's one of our high-res models. Takes it over South Carolina today, heads toward Hatteras as we head into tomorrow morning, and then it moves back out of the water, and again, it begins to build up some steam there because it is quite warm still, lower 80s. Now, I'm going to add on the wind fields on top of this map, and as it animates further, you'll be able to see that it just doesn't move anywhere. It just sits there. And the darker blue is tropical storm force winds, potentially over 40 to 60 miles per hour. At this point, forecast to be just offshore and less than 40 mile per hour winds, sustained winds, I should say, just off the coast of Long Island, but gusts could certainly be there. So it's going to be a close call for the Delmarva Peninsula all the way through Long Island and Nantucket on how this is going to affect their Labor Day holiday weekend. Because this is Sunday morning, this map is. So got travel plans, that area, friends or family there. I'm sure they are sweating this one out. Not excited at all. At least we are on the nicer side of things. Beautiful weather here. Just maybe a cloud or two maybe today, but I don't think it's going to happen. Humidity. Remember, we had a lot of green on this map yesterday. It's been wiped out. So we know how the weekend's going to turn out. Nice weather, heating up next week to the 90s, lower 90s. Now, it starts on Monday, Labor Day, with high around 90. If you haven't seen this before, this is the different model views. This is the GFS model. These are what we call operational runs. This is the Euro, and this is the Canadian. These are models that update every few hours, or every 6 hours in some cases, or every 12, to give you an idea of how things are looking down the road. These below it are the same model names, but they take in consideration more factors and give you more of a smoother idea. It's not so reactive to the weather pattern. It kind of gradually shows you the overall weather pattern with a lot of different ideas at play. So usually ensembles of these models are the best to look at for longer term, and don't get too caught up in the operationals, what we call these, because they do change so much every 6 hours in some cases, and it can cause a lot of forecast headaches and a lot of flip-flopping in forecast. Having said that, GFS does show the tropical system, so does the Euro, and so does the Canadian. This will be again for Tuesday, just after Labor Day. Notice it's still there in the Northeast, by the way. The ensembles too, I mean, again, because it's a smoother out idea, it doesn't show the intensity, but even for an ensemble to show a low that deep like that, even on ensemble, is impressive. So it definitely is going to be there. All right, so peak. That's your heat ridge. Our area, that's where we're talking about the lower 90s in our neck of the woods, and the ensembles agree on that. Then we advance to about the time period of the 11th and 12th, so the following weekend. GFS, the operational, shows the front moving in, a decent front with heavy rain, thunderstorms. Euro, again, kind of rolls on us with that idea of a front and thunderstorms, but nothing really deep as far as the trough goes. The ensembles, a little more smoothed out on both of them, really. The Canadians a little out to lunch on that, a little warmer on that side of things. But in general, you definitely see that it's not going to be 90 for that weekend. Likely will be rainy, not going to be 90. So, having said that, are we going to be in the 70s or 80s? There's going to be a rain-induced cool weather or not? That's what we got to figure out. Looking even further down the road, now we lose the operational runs of the Euro and the Canadian. They disappear up there because they don't go out that far. Just the GFS does. But the ensembles do. And you can see this is going pretty far out now. We're about the 16th or so of September. It does show a couple of things that I want to point out. There is a loosely indicated trough in the Great Lakes, which this far out is understandable. All right, it's not going to be a real deep trough unless there's a lot of agreement on every model idea within that particular model, that what we call ensemble members, that is going to happen. That doesn't happen very often when we see that. So this is to be expected. But we do see a trough around the 16th. What is more interesting, though, is the other notch right here in the northwest. See the little dip, little notch. That tells me there was likely going to be a shortening of the wavelengths of the jet stream, and we see this even on the operational GFS. See, it kind of wiggles. We don't have the big long form trough that happens here, or a flat jet stream, or we call zonal. It's got a lot of wiggles to it, if you will. That tells me it's going to be potentially, it's not overly deep either, so it's not going to be slow, but it is going to be amplified enough. There's going to be several fronts moving through, and therefore I really don't know if we're going to be able to get back in the 90s again before time runs out in the month. So this stretch of 90s coming away for next week could very well be our last 90-degree weather for the year. I've said that before, and it was about the same date last year we had that. So question is then, how cool are we going to get these little notches coming down our way later this month? I don't know that answer. Two reasons. One, it's too far out. I mean, yes, some of the models are indicating some 40s at night in some spots. Can't say that yet. I can see why it's saying that, but that's just too far out to see for sure. And the reason why, the second item of why we can't get specific yet, is because the tropics likely will still be able to get going. Keep in mind, the peak of hurricane season, I believe, is the 10th of September. So we're not even to the peak of the hurricane season. We're not even to the halfway point. So there very well could be more tropical energy involved here, and when that happens, the models can go nuts. So there could be some changes down the road. But at least we're seeing something, some activity showing up middle of the month that tells me right off the bat it doesn't look like a heat wave. So these 90s coming in next week have a time limit to them, the way it's looking to me, and we very well could be doing with more cool shots. I'm going to leave it at that for now. Let's focus on the nice weather this weekend. Enjoy the weekend, and I will see you guys on Tuesday.